Hello friends, and welcome back to another month of reading magic. Thanks for joining me, and I'm so glad that you could be here. Let's start things off at the beginning of my journal by checking off one of my reading goals. Read a new to me series. In May, I finished the Ash Princess trilogy and the War of Souls trilogy, both of which were excellent reads. I'm going to skip over my books to read page for this month and go instead to my recommended reads. This month I read The Summer Tree by Guy Gavriel Kay, which was a wonderful read that I rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you so much for your amazing suggestion, Liz. Up next is the 2025 Visual Bookshelf, my favorite page in my journal. Just like my previous videos, I'm going to add in the titles for the books I read this month and color them in according to their genres. This month's reads include Ember Queen, Dragons of a Vanished Moon, Sunrise on the Reaping, The Storybook of Legends, The Summer Tree, You Let Me In, and The Unfairest of Them All. May was a great reading month, culminating in 7 total books finished, with an overall page count of 2,801 pages read. I managed to finish both the Ash Princess and the War of Souls trilogies, and several of this month's reads got very high ratings. May was dominated by both fantasy and YA titles, which made for a very fun reading month with both lighthearted reads as well as ones with more action, adventure, and drama. Fantasy has always been my genre of choice, and I love how it can sweep you away to new incredible worlds, which is exactly what the books in this month's recap did. Just look at how colorful the shelf is getting. Next up is the series tracker page, and as I mentioned previously, I finished both the Ash Princess and the War of Souls trilogies, so let's gray those out. I also started 2 new series, the Fionavar Tapestry and the Ever After High series. I'm going to add them to my spread and fill in their respective dots. We're not even halfway through the year, but my tracker page is getting very full. I may have to add series in between the lines if things keep going like this. Let's flip the page and fill in the book log with this month's reads. Starting things off this month is Ember Queen by Laura Sebastian, the final book in the Ash Princess trilogy. This last book picked up where the second left off, and it hit the ground running at full speed. It dialed up the political intrigue and action and kept me on the edge of my seat the whole way through. The characters and their relationships were explored even further in a series of complex plots full of twists and turns. And if you enjoyed the first or second book in this series, you'll definitely enjoy the third. It was my favorite of the 3. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Next up is Dragons of a Vanished Moon by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. It's the final book in the War of Souls trilogy. Much like the previous 2 books in this series, it was a fast-paced, action-packed epic fantasy with characters you really felt and cared for, and high-stakes situations that could mean life or death for all of those involved. I really loved how all of the different threads of plots and characters came together at the very end in the final showdown, and I felt that the ending was very satisfying overall. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, a prologue and standalone novel of the Hunger Games series that follows Haymitch Abernathy and tells the story of his involvement in the games 24 years before we first meet Katniss and Peeta. This book was incredible. It invoked the same feelings of dread, hopelessness, and sheer resilience that the original Hunger Games novel made me feel, and I had a hard time putting it down. It's a must-read if you enjoyed any of the other Hunger Games novels. 5 out of 5 stars. For something lighter while reading all those epic fantasy and dystopian novels, I read the Storybook of Legends by Shannon Hale, a super cute and fluffy mid-level book based around Mattel's fashion doll line, Ever After High. The story follows Raven Queen, daughter of the Evil Queen, and Apple White, daughter of Snow White, as they grapple with everyday life at school and ultimately if they want to continue in their parents' footsteps to preserve their legacy and destinies. As a collector and fan of these dolls, this book was very adorable and would be great for young readers that love princesses and fairy tales. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I picked The Summer Tree by Guy Gavriel Kay for my recommended read this month, and it did not disappoint. This is another big epic fantasy, but it was very different from what I've been reading, or any other fantasies I've read in the past. It takes a lot for me to get emotional over a book, but I will admit that this one caused me to shed a few tears. The characters were just that relatable and well written. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And it would have gotten a perfect score, but there were a few isolated parts in the first third of the book where I got a little bit confused at times because there were a lot of characters getting introduced, and it was sometimes hard to keep track of them all. Either way, it was still an incredible read, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this trilogy. Next, I picked something a little different. You Let Me In by Camilla Bruce. This book was an intense mix of mystery, thriller, and horror that sucked me in within the first chapter. It was like nothing I've read before, and it had me constantly wondering if the protagonist was making everything up or actually telling the truth. There were so many twists and turns, and there was one character in particular, Pepperman, who was both incredibly intriguing but also incredibly terrifying. I could not put this one down, and I finished it in only 5 days. It gets a perfect 5 out of 5 rating. Lastly, I finished off the month with the second book in the Ever After High trilogy, The Unfairest of Them All. This novel again focused on Raven and Apple's complicated relationship, but it also expanded on several more characters and gave them more in-depth backstories. I felt that the series really found its stride in this book, and I really ended up enjoying it. Like the first, it was a really cute and adorable mid-grade read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Turning the page, let's add all the books I just discussed to my visual tracker, along with their ratings. It's hard to believe that these 2 pages are almost full already, but I really love how it's coming together. When I made this journal, I only included enough spaces for 64 books, thinking that I'd end up maybe reading about 40-ish books total, but now I'm wondering if I should have added more. Only time will tell. Next up, it's time to unveil my top pick for Book of the Month. If you've made it this far, you know that 3 of the 7 books I read were 5 out of 5 star reads, with another close second at 4.5 out of 5. Having to choose between Dragons of a Vanished Moon, Sunrise on the Reaping, and You Let Me In was really tough this month, as I genuinely enjoyed all 3 books very, very much, for very different reasons. After a lot of thought, I went with my gut and I chose Sunrise on the Reaping, as it gave me those same nostalgic feelings that I felt when I first read The Hunger Games. You Let Me In came in at an extremely close second, and I'm almost 100% sure it'll be included as a best of the year book several months down the road. Let's now flip over to the yearly stats spread and add in all of this month's numbers and information. In books read per month, I'll fill it in with 7 books read. For reading types, I read 4 physical books, 1 ebook, and 2 audiobooks. In books by the page, I read 1 book in the 1 to 200 plus pages column, 4 in the 300s, 1 in the 500s, and 1 in the 600s. If you watched last month's video, you'll know that I made a mistake and accidentally added a stat in the 600s column instead of the 500s. So I'm remedying that this month by simply adding 2 to the 500s bar. For genres read this month, I'll add 2 in fantasy, 4 in YA, and 1 in mystery thriller. And lastly, for when was it written, I'm going to add 1 in the 1980s column, 1 in the 2000s, 2 in the 2010s, and lastly, 3 in the 2020s. Moving on, let's flip over to our monthly overview for May and add in all the details and info for the month. I'll add in 7 for total books read and an astonishing 2,801 in total pages read. That's the most pages read in a month I've had so far. Next up is the best and worst reads of the month. We already know that the best read went to Sunrise on the Reaping, and the worst goes to Storybook of Legends, simply because it was the lowest rated book this month. As always, I'll go ahead and add in all 7 books I read in the monthly book log, with the date I finished the book, its page count, and its rating. And to finish this page off, I'll dot in my mini calendar up here at the top with the date I finished each book and the color that corresponds to its genre. They say that April showers bring May flowers, and spring is definitely in full swing here. May was kind of a busy month for my husband and I, and because of that we didn't end up watching any new TV shows or movies. So I'm going to skip over those pages and go directly to the Besties binge watch spread. Because I'm filming my May wrap-up a little after the end of the month, I can add in that my friend and I finished our watch of The Residents on June 5th. This was a great show that we both loved, and we're really hoping that it gets another season. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. To finish off this month's video, I'm going to flip to a spread I haven't yet touched. Check this out! Over the past few months, I've been keeping a tab on some shows and movies I'm interested in watching, so I'm going to add some of them here to continue to keep track, kind of like my books to read page. I'm going to add in the following TV shows and movies: You, Beef, Shadow and Bone, The Watcher, Cabinet of Curiosities, Love, Death and Robots, Where the Crawdads Sing, The Devil All the Time, Woman of the Hour, Those About to Die, and finally, Fallout. Have you watched any of these movies or shows? Let me know down in the comments what you thought of them, or maybe recommend some that I can add to my list. And with that, we've finished our reading journal recap for May. As always, thank you for taking the time to join me today and for watching my videos. If you want to continue to see more content, or if you just enjoyed what you saw, please consider hitting like and subscribing to my channel. Happy reading, and see you all in the next video. Bye!